We are live with a brand new special CFL free agency live event going over everything that's happening today in the world of CFL free agency. And man, it's been a crazy start to the day. A lot going on. A lot of news beforehand. I don't even know where to start at this point.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's for one, it's still too early for me to be awake. I still want to go back to bed. Two, being from Ottawa in this is it's a pretty exciting day. We are we're in for a bit of a crazy day here as things become official, and we start to see where exactly everybody's going.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting. We already have some big newses. Mazzoli signed with Ottawa the other day. You have Ed Gainey going to Edmonton. You have Dion Lacey heading over to Edmonton. Moncrief going back to Saskatchewan. Stanky was going to Saskatchewan. You had Jagarrett Davis accept the offer out of Ottawa or out of Hamilton to go to Toronto. There's been so much noise going on right now. It's ridiculous.
There legitimately isn't enough time for us to go over all of the things that have happened already, just because there's just been so much. And from the Mazzoli, like you said, all of the signings that you just mentioned, plus literally just now, Alden Darby signs with the Red Blacks. Darvin Adams signed. This is from. Let me grab it for you here. This is from Justin Dunk or John Hodge. Sorry. So.
Oh, that's why I need to turn him on.
Yes, you do. And then 51 seconds ago,
there we go.
Farhan mentions that Jamal Rowe will be re-signing with the Tiger Cats. So, it's all happening. We are very, very soon going to officially get a bunch of stuff, particularly out of Ottawa. We're going to see a ton of things come down. Yeah. And then there's still teams like a Winnipeg right now that we're still kind of waiting for things to happen, because other than Greg Ellingson, who they signed this morning, and that should be coming official momentarily as well, the Bombers haven't done much in terms of outside help. Even when it comes to NCAA free agents, they have not done much of anything.
No, and I mean, there was a report that Huffnagel, the only thing he can afford is McDonald's. So who knows what Saskatchewan or Calgary is going to be doing right now.
Tim says hi from Ottawa too, by the way. So we know Tim's probably pretty happy this morning.
Yeah. Spencer Moore, the free agent out of Montreal. I'm curious on where he's going to end up. We saw a bunch of signings from re-signings out of Montreal sometime yesterday. So it's going to be kind of crazy to see what happens over the next, probably the next couple of minutes as these things become more official throughout the day.
Well, Herb Zurkowski also reporting that Mike Jones is signing with the Alouettes out of is leaving Winnipeg. So there's another one.
Yeah, and he also Avery Ellis is leaving Ottawa to go to Montreal. So
yeah,
that's another one late last night where Patrick Levels expected to come to Ottawa. It was reconfirmed this morning by Farhan, originally reported by Justin Dunk. So we have some movement going on ahead of free agency, and now with free agency starting.
There's still some big names that we're watching for too. Andrew Harris has been mentioned. He's
representing himself.
Teams. Yeah, there's 3 teams battling for his services right now. I believe it's Saskatchewan, BC, and Edmonton, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
That one's a little weird to me because Edmonton has James Wilder Jr. So I don't know what they're trying to build in the backfield. Maybe they're trying to literally you put both running backs out there at the same time and just figure out who's going to get the ball handed off to them. I don't know. That's a little bit of
it allows for more wide openness and allows for more offensive game planning, right? Yeah. Can't have too many running backs.
As Tim points out too, we're also looking for a guy like Sean Lemon, who I think there's going to be some interest for around the league. I think Hamilton's a team who might have interest in him. And Ryan also mentions that, or asks if we're reporting all the signings. We are looking for whenever something comes down, we're going to mention it. We're basically watching things as they happen live, and as soon as something happens, we're bringing it up.
And there was also a report yesterday that, and I mean, I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, that my Ottawa native Matt O'Connor is expected to go to BC. That he's the front runner for that that second job in BC.
Yeah. Also, just now, Justin Dunk is also reporting that Alden Darby is signing with the Red Blacks. So,
which is huge.
They got a little shaken up yesterday when Brandon Dandridge was signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a bit of a hole to fill, and Darby definitely adds something to their secondary that they're losing. So that's a pretty big one for them.
Yeah, and I mean, big fan of him, and I'm excited to see him in Ottawa. I know when there was talk of him being moved out of Toronto last year before he was moved to Winnipeg, I was like, Ottawa should go for him. Now he's in the nation's capital.
Yeah. There's so many names that we can talk about. We can talk about Mark Cordy signing with the Edmonton Elks just a few hours ago. I think a lot of people saw that one coming. He played his college football with Alberta, with the Golden Bears. And, I think it makes sense. I think the Red Blacks offered somewhere in the range of $200,000, I think was the report. But the Elks offered $205,000. And, I think this is one that makes total sense. And with what Ottawa has done, I don't know if they're necessarily too upset with the trade-off they've made, even though Cordy was their best offensive lineman last season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly upset about that personally. Ottawa needed to rejig their offensive line, and considering who they were bringing in, like you have Siracco, Hunter Stewart is linked, Combre Williams, you had Jacob Ruby, it just kind of made sense that he was the odd man out going forward.
Yeah, we're 8 minutes in here, and we haven't seen any official announcements, which I'm not saying is surprising. However, for the amount of action that we had prior to the opening of free agency, I kind of figured we'd have at least a couple of teams go, let's just announce it right at 12. You know what I mean? But I guess they have to pretend that they didn't but there's a tampering window, so I don't know. I'm kind of questioning when we're going to see stuff become official at this point.
As well, that did not work as I wanted it to. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, but I don't know. It's going to be. It's one of those things where we're just time and patience.
Yeah, that's really what it's going to be. And it's going to be a bit of a long day, too. There's not going to be, not everybody's going to sign immediately. We're going to see some things happen tomorrow. See some things on Thursday and Friday.
It looks like they just announced, Edmonton has just announced that Cordy is heading back to Edmonton. And they used a picture of him with the University of Alberta because, I mean, not
of course
shocking.
I did.
It's not shocking. No,
and it is him returning home, right? That is where he played his college ball. Yeah. I think the writing was on the wall a little bit too. I know people had questioned whether he'd be back or not, and I think there was still a hope that he would be. But I think at the end of the day, this was something that was always not necessarily just possible, but also likely to happen. And, it happened. But based on what we have seen so far with the Ruby, Siracco, Stewart, and Ucombre Williams signings, I think that Ottawa has done a very good job at rebounding from that. We're still waiting on Stewart to become official. I think we've seen the reports that both Williams and Siracco have signed. We're just still waiting on Stewart.
Oh, and it sounds like Ty Cranston out of Montreal, according to Tim Baines, is heading to Ottawa.
Yeah.
He just put out a tweet firing on Red Blacks firing on all cylinders. First day of free agency. Alden Darby, Patrick Levels, Kwaku Boateng, Lorenzo Meraldine, Ty Cranston, all heading to Ottawa, and then Mazzoli, Ackland, Adams, Noel, and Powell are all on the offensive side. So still no actual official signings of Ucambre Williams, Darius Siracco, or Hunter Stewart. Don Jackson's promoting Hamilton to go after Frankie's boy, Riker Matthews.
Yep. That doesn't necessarily surprise me, that one.
Nope. Jagari Davis has accepted the Toronto offer, which, isn't surprising.
Yeah, and I mean, Tim basically hits the nail on the head. And if Ottawa, this is something we touched on in our free agency preview episode that we did and released yesterday. If Ottawa didn't improve the offensive line, it was going to be a long season. And I think that was what most people were hitting on when the Jeremiah Mazzoli signing happened and Kwaku Boateng and all that early stuff happened.
And it's official. Greg Ellingson is now a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They just announced it, so that's a huge one. So,
okay, genuine question here, right? Let's compare him to Kenny Lawler for a second. And do we know the number on the Greg Ellingson contract? I'm assuming.
No idea. I probably not. I'm assuming it's obviously less than what Lawler.
I'm going to go ahead and assume it's nowhere near $300,000.
Yeah, I would assume. I would probably say it's around like the mid 100K mark.
And if that's the case, are we going to see half the production we see from Greg Ellingson as compared to Kenny Lawler? Because I'm not convinced on that. I'm not convinced whatsoever that is that's a gross overpayment, right?
I would think so, but I mean, it's kind of hard to say that. You have to look at, if that's what someone's willing to pay you, why not, right? If you have teams that are battling, I don't blame Lawler for getting it. I think honestly, really good on Lawler for doing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, of course. You can't fault the player for
and I mean, I guess if you're Edmonton or BC, you look at who is potentially going to be available, and what he can do for your system, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious though, why pay Kenny Lawler $300,000 when I'm not even if he does put up 500, 600 more yards than Greg Ellingson, right? Was he worth the extra? Let's even be generous and say Greg makes $200,000. Is Kenny Lawler worth the extra $100,000? Because that $100,000 could be spent on another receiver to add depth to your football team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's who you look at who's available and whatnot, and you move on from it, right? I don't know. I feel like Edmonton, we've seen this with Jones before in Saskatchewan. He's going to try getting those big names. He's going to try getting those big players, and it's just not. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and we mentioned it too with them in that I'm going to keep plugging that episode because we touched on a lot of this stuff. But, they're not confident with the quarterback that's throwing the football right now. No. And that's clear based on the fact that they went after Jeremiah Mazzoli. How's that situation going to work itself out? Is Nick Arbuckle the starting quarterback of that team right now, do you think?
I think it's an open competition.
Okay, then make me a prediction.
I think it goes in. You're going to look at and it is confirmed that Williams, Siracco, and Stewart are coming to Ottawa. Nolan McMillan will be heading out of Ottawa.
Yeah, who's confirming that one? Because I need
Tim Baines.
Okay, Timmy's getting
he's let's not forget the offensive line. Mark Cordy is off to Edmonton. Nolan McMillan likely to follow. The Red Blacks have Siracco, Stewart, and Williams coming in. So That has basically been confirmed as official.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think it's going to be an open competition. And if I'm, if I'm, Arbuckle and I am Barrett and, Cornelius, like, I would 100% go in there being like, I can win this job. You'll have 2 preseason games. Everyone will have a fair look. You just have to go out there and, be better than the other guy. And I think personally, that's all you can really ask for, right? If no one wants to take it, well then, yeah, you have to go out and find a solution.
Yeah, that's the tough thing for them. Like, they clearly don't think that they have the solution in house right now. They looked at Jeremiah Mazzoli, they went after him, but for the money that they like, it's a weird situation to me that they were willing to spend on another quarterback when they have a guy who's making as much as Nick Arbuckle is, when they still have Taylor Cornelius. They signed JT Barrett, which we'll see how that works out. I think it's Khalil Tate they signed as well. Like, they have some good young quarterbacks on that team right now. And I don't know. It's just a weird, like, I understand that Chris Jones always likes to kind of do his own thing, and he doesn't always operate in an obvious way, but it seems to get results. But I don't know. That Elks team's going to be interesting to me. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last year where people were like, "Oh, I mean, we were also on the board of like, they're going to be so good. Can they actually do it this year?"
Yeah. Yeah. Are these the CFL's graphics this year?
Which ones?
Whoa. They just put out a tweet about how Greg Ellingson signed at Winnipeg.
Was it the
I think these are the CFL's new graphics. Because those are hot.
Is it the CFL's or if it's Winnipeg's?
I think this is the CFL's. It's on the CFL Twitter. They just posted it.
Oh, then yeah, this is their new graphic. That's sick.
That's awesome. Good work to whoever designed that at the CFL. That's fantastic.
That's 100%.
That's the kind of stuff you get on our live shows. We're just going to geek out about the graphic design of the Canadian Football League. But that's awesome. I actually really like that. Yeah, they did a really good. They knocked this out of the park compared to the ones that they had the last few years that are just kind of okay. This is really good. Really enjoy that.
Yeah. So Sean McGuire apparently is looking at life outside of football.
Yeah.
Same with Matt Nichols. So apparently it looks like Matt Nichols isn't ready to shut the door quite yet on playing, but he could. So it should be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of storylines that I'm looking for today, and that backup position in Winnipeg is one of them, especially with Sean McGuire saying that what they do with that backup position, I think, is going to be interesting. I don't know what they're going to do there, though, because very quickly the options are kind of getting a little bit thin. I think you're looking at a guy, especially if O'Connor signs with the Lions. Are you looking at a guy like a David Watford? Are you looking at a Trevor Harris, which I think they might genuinely give Trevor Harris a look? But like, you think about the guys who were the backups in the league last year, Matthew Schultz is already signed. Dominique Davis is already signed. David Watford's still out there, but Antonio Pipkin is still around with Toronto. There's not too many guys left, especially considering I don't know if McGuire or Harker are guys that are going to be backups in the league again. I think that they're kind of on the outside looking in terms of getting contracts from anybody. So I think that's definitely one of my storylines.
Watford out of Hamilton would be an interesting one in my opinion. Especially if I'm Winnipeg and I'm looking at a backup option, I think Watford would probably be my my go-to. But
the issue with Watford, and again, I mentioned this on our preview, that just when he went into the games for Hamilton, he was relied on to be just a guy who hands the ball off. Like, he didn't exactly he didn't throw the ball very much, and when he did throw it, he didn't throw it particularly well. So I think as much as you don't like Trevor Harris, and as much as I think that he has consistency issues, I still think that he's the better quarterback.
But is he good
David
for the
Watford.
room? And I think that's the thing is I look at Watford and I'm like, I feel like this guy, like, he's a good option as a backup, and he's also good for the room. I don't know if you bring Harris as a backup, if he's necessarily good for the room.
Do you know what's not good for the room?
What?
Losing games.
Well, duh.
So, the important thing is, can David Watford win you football games?
I would pick Watford over Harris.
I think it's relatively, like, it's close. I think if you look at, I think it's more about scheme fit to me. Like, if you put David Watford in Saskatchewan versus Trevor Harris, I think you'd probably find more success with Watford. However, in Winnipeg, I'm actually pretty confident that Harris could go out and not necessarily light the world on fire, but not suck enough to win football games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I look at Harris and I'm like, is this guy going to be good enough for your room? Is he going to be good enough for, if he's not playing, is he beneficial to the room? And I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because we're not in the room, right? Like, we don't know exactly what goes on behind the scenes, and that's why I'm going to plug our show this Thursday when we have Sherrod Baltimore on. We learned a couple things about some of the dudes in the room, particularly Caleb Evans, and I thought there was some interesting stuff going on there, and his great dance moves too.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
got a bit of insight into how Kane is.
Yeah.
Is it Kane or Kenna?
Abdul Kenna.
Kenna, okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Very close friends, those guys. I think I don't know exactly what he's mentioning. Arbuckle. The timestamp on that is 12:20. I don't know if we're probably talking about backup quarterbacks in Winnipeg there, right?
This is the original.
Yeah.
So I think it's more allowing Chris Jones to take seeing if Chris Jones will allow Arbuckle to see if he can take the reins. And I think that's true. I think Arbuckle's a guy that, like, you're going to have an open competition, and whoever wants it will get it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing to do. I would personally, I'm more of a Taylor Cornelius guy than Arbuckle, and I know you're going to giggle at me, but you know what? The corn dog can play football.
I mean, I'm all for allowing 3 quarterbacks to come into camp, and whoever's the best quarterback in camp gets the job. You have 2 preseason games. That's 8 quarters.
Which isn't enough. It's really not enough.
It's not enough, but you add in camp and whatnot, like, you should be able to see who rises above everyone. Starting, like, you basically have 5 weeks of camp, I believe, from like the middle of May through to the middle of June.
Roughly.
You should be able to see who comes out on top within those 5 weeks. It's not like last year where it was only like a 2.5 week camp. You'll have a full camp to evaluate which quarterback is good enough to take the reins. And a matter of if they are or not, that's a different question.
Yeah, I'm still worried about that position for the Elks, though, because there just isn't. It's not that there's no star power, because I think that one of them could be a star eventually. It's just there's no solidified number 1 guy. And we've seen that in Ottawa before. And I'm going to use that as an example because we both are very familiar with the situation. But when they say when you have 2 quarterbacks, you really have none. And when you went into the season with Dominique Davis and Jonathan Jennings, people thought that, 1 or 2 of them, both of them could be starters again, but that never happened, right? And they really struggled that season. So I'm concerned about the Elks in that regard, that if they don't have one of Arbuckle or Cornelius come out as a legitimate starter in the league, it doesn't really matter what else they do, and they've brought in some big names. But if they don't get the good play out of those guys, they're not going to go far.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely gonna be an interesting ride for them, because they're gonna have to put forth, and you're gonna have to take your time. And if they're not, the other question is who would you bring in that could be arguably better than what you have, right?
And that's the issue, is they tried that and it didn't work. You know, Sean Burke even this morning mentioned that they only ever talked to Jeremiah Masoli as quarterbacks to bring in. They never even asked or talked to another. Like, Trevor Harris never got a phone call from Sean Burke. And Paul LaPolice was saying that he was so confident that they were going to get him that he was cutting up film to ask him about things and to basically start building his playbook for the season around Jeremiah Masoli. He said he watched every down that Jeremiah played in 2018, cut up all the film, and started building his playbook before they even signed him. So
yeah, but I mean, I feel like it makes the most sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
You already know that, okay, it's Masoli or Evans and Hodges. You know, there really isn't, and I said it before, like, there, you look at the quarterback availability, and it was Masoli and then everybody else.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that Harris or, you know, Arbuckle or Bethel Thompson are actually move the needle enough to warrant signing them over giving Caleb Evans or, you know, Duck Hodges a legitimate chance at a starting role. It's not possible for me to, like, I will never believe that those guys move the needle enough for Ottawa to be worth signing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I don't think that there was going to be, and, you know, it kind of not necessarily confirms it, but it kind of shows you where their thought process was when they didn't reach out to Trevor Harris, supposedly. That if they didn't get Masoli, it probably was going to be Caleb Evans, who was starting quarterback. And, you know, maybe they would have brought in a guy like a Michael O'Connor, who you're pretty confident can be a backup quarterback in this league. And then he can battle it out with, you know, whoever it may be. You know, maybe Duck went home and had a fantastic offseason and comes back as like a legitimate superstar in the league. That could still happen. You never know, right? But like, it was definitely Masoli or bust for this team. And clearly, I mean, it's kind of funny because I think a lot of people thought that Ottawa was going to go bust in terms of like dollars for the rest of free agency when they signed Masoli. But clearly, that hasn't happened.
See, I mean, and I think this is the problem, is that, like, this is a problem with Toronto last year. It's a problem with Edmonton this year as well. Without these dollars being public knowledge, when you see someone sign, like, my biggest issue with Masoli, and I've been very honest with this, is I like Masoli. I think he's a great quarterback. I obviously would have loved him in Ottawa no matter what. And if I'm Ottawa, like, obviously I'm going to sign him. But if I don't have the money to sign other places, because my biggest worry was Ottawa's going to get all these shiny pieces, quarterback, receiver, running back, and not address the offensive line. And, like, we all know, if you don't have an offensive line, you're not going to do anything, right? So I wish they would publicly announce their roster, like their cap, kind of like the NHL does, the NBA does, because that way fans aren't losing their mind every time they sign somebody to a big contract.
It's getting closer to that point too, and you got to credit 3 Down Nation for a lot of it. Justin Dunk and John Hodge they've got their fingers on the pulse of literally everybody at all times, it seems. Like, those guys must literally just be peering through general managers' windows to figure out what's going on. But those guys have been fantastic in getting that information public. Dave Naylor's obviously been fantastic in doing that. Farhan's been fantastic in doing that. So it is getting closer when you see the big guys. But also, like, we have no idea what Dominic Davis is going to be making this year right now. We have, you know, very little idea what a guy like Levi Noel is going to be making. So, you know, I would like to see everybody become public, but we are getting more insight than what we used to get.
So Tim
yes,
asked,
I do.
I figured, you know, that was going to be Frankie's. For me personally, I want to see him on the field. You know, I think the pieces that you've brought in, yes, because you're giving him weapons to work with. You're giving him the ability to use his skills to be successful. So yes, I think with the other players they brought in, 100% worth it.
Yeah.
If
And I
they
think
didn't bring in the players they brought in, that's a different story.
I think the number one, why I think it's worth it, because if you didn't pay him that 450 figure, you weren't getting him, right? He would have went to Edmonton, who offered him, I think, probably around the same dollar value. So if you wanted to get him, you had to give him that figure. And if you didn't get him, I don't think you would have the same pull that you've got with other receivers right now. Like with Jalen Ackland and Darvin Adams, and then you still have Ryan Davis to throw into that mix. You still have Nate Bahar. So like the receiving core looks pretty good. Would it look the same if you didn't sign Mazzoli? I don't know, right? The other thing too is the 500,000 figure for next season that people are upset about. If he doesn't have a good season, he probably won't get paid that much. They'll restructure the contract. They'll do whatever. And if he does make that amount, it means that he's probably worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, we have this one from Brody, Gainey signed with Edmonton. And yeah, that's another big signing out of Edmonton. Ed Gainey signed. Dion Lacey was announced about an hour before free agency signing with Edmonton, which made sense considering who Edmonton signed. They got Stanky. They brought back Larry Dean and Derek Moncrief. So that's that linebacking core in
Moncrief
Saskatchewan.
went to Saskatchewan.
Yeah, but that's Saskatchewan.
Oh, yeah.
Linebacking core is going to be very, very deadly. And I figured the minute they signed, Dean, it was kind of the door shutting for Dion. So him back in Edmonton, it makes sense. He goes back with Chris Jones. They fill that middle linebacker spot up with him. So I like it for Edmonton. I think it's a great signing. I think him and the Gainey signing are very good. Gainey has a lot of game left. But that D-line, that D-line's the biggest issue right now. You lost Boateng, you lost Betts. No one's really been brought in so far to replace those
They've
two.
Antonio Simmons, I believe.
Yeah. But there really actually hasn't been much movement on the D-line for them. And it's great having those guys in the secondary and that second unit of the linebacker, but if you can't get to the quarterback, those guys are going to get eaten alive a lot of the times.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the guys right now, all of their defensive ends are just guys out of college that have been signed before. They also signed Adam Konar today, I think is an important one to mention. But that team, I don't know. I'm intrigued to see what they do the rest of the way because they've spent big dollars on Dion Lacey, on Ed Gainey. They spent on Lawler and Mark Cordy, and they brought in Darius Bowman and Manny Arsenault. Like that's an intriguing team, mostly because there's just some massive personalities and names that I really want to see. Particularly, I want to see Bowman and Arsenault back on the field. I think that's going to be phenomenal if they're anywhere near productive.
Yeah, that offensive unit should be pretty good, but it's that defense. Like, is this going to be a situation where the offensive unit has to, outscore every other team just to win a game? And if that's the case, and it's surprising because Chris Jones, he's known for defense. Like that's a specialty. That's what he built up in Saskatchewan. So I'm interested to see how it works. I'm very interested to see how this will work out in Edmonton. But again, a good Edmonton team, a competitive Edmonton team is good for the league.
Yeah, I do want to, like I mentioned a couple of my storylines earlier. There's a few more that I'm still watching, particularly some out in Ottawa, of course, because that's where I know the most. I'm waiting for the Antoine Pruneau stuff. Sean Burke made it sound like that is imminent and coming, that Antoine Pruneau will be back with the Red Blacks. But what about Micah Alway? Now that Saskatchewan has kind of started to build their linebacking core, where do we see Micah Alway?
Montreal.
You think so?
I mean, the problem with Alway is that he's a weak side linebacker. And most players in the CFL, if you're a middle linebacker, most of them can slide over to that weak linebacker spot if needed. I honestly thought that maybe you would have seen him go to Calgary, but it doesn't sound like Calgary has enough money to make it work. Not really sure what Toronto's going to do with how Toronto's linebacking core is shaping up. with McManus being brought in. They brought in Jagger Davis at the end. Could that be a fit? Could he go back to Toronto? Possibly. But, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back to Ottawa.
Yeah, it could happen, particularly after Boateng signed, right? Because now they have the extra Canadian on the defensive line. They're able to add an American somewhere in the defense and still be able to have the two American tackles, right? They can still do that, and it could happen. It's odd that we haven't heard anything about him, whether he's moving on or if he's staying.
Here's the thing: Tim Baines, earlier today, kind of hinted that RJ Harris is still on the table for Ottawa. So just because we've seen radio silence on some of these guys doesn't necessarily mean that they're out, done. They won't be back in Ottawa. I think that's that's a lot with a lot of these players. Looking at who's potentially available. According to Marshall Ferguson, he released a spreadsheet still showing that Riker Matthews is signed with BC. So maybe he has and we just haven't heard anything. I don't know. But he's still saying he's signed with BC. He's not showing up as the free agents on the free agent list. But looking at who's available, there's a good chance that some of these guys go back to the teams that they're currently on. Josh Huff in Toronto. You have, Mayala in Calgary, if they can make that work. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think Jamar Wallace and Corey Greenwood are two guys that I'm really excited, really interested about to see where they end up out of Calgary. And I mean, there's a lot of places and a lot of potential for moves.
Yeah, it's shockingly quiet right now. I'm going to be honest with you, Shane.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what to say.
Neither do I. This is everybody. I don't know. All these moves were basically confirmed, I want to say, right? Before free agency open. And then I think we officially have Ellingson right now. We officially have
Cordy
Gainey. And we officially have Mark Cordy on top of Jeremiah Mazzoli, who I'm not counting because he was on a technicality, released on Friday and signed yesterday.
Was he released Friday?
He was released.
I thought he was released yesterday. I thought he was released yesterday afternoon.
It may have been, but he was released by the Tiger Cats regardless. So that one kind of flew under the radar, by the way.
Well, yeah, they didn't have to publicly announce that they released him, right?
Typically you do, or somebody figures it out, because then he's able to sign. And I think it just kind of
I think that was a courtesy thing. I think that was okay, we're releasing him.
Yeah.
We're just going to throw it's kind of a paper transaction, right? You don't you've already said goodbye to him. You've already it's like Brandon Banks. He wasn't a release, but they already said goodbye.
He was actually.
He was? Because even
according
on
to the CFL, he was.
Interesting, because on the CFL transaction page, he wasn't there.
Well, he was when I went back and I updated all of our pages. Because half of the signings, believe it or not, a lot of the signings on that CFL tracker never got put in press releases.
Yeah.
So, Banks was released.
Oh, and then Konar.
Is that official now too?
Yeah, it just became official 8 seconds ago. I mean,
so yeah, I think some people might just be listening to audio right now. They might not see the video, but Tim mentioned that if Ottawa does re-sign RJ Harris and they move him back inside to slot back, they'll probably get some pretty good numbers out of him. And I tend to agree with that because, again, one of the things that we mentioned on that episode that came out yesterday was that RJ had his chance to be a number one. He didn't work out. But when he was playing alongside some of Ottawa's top receivers when they had them, like the Greg Ellingsons, the Deontay Spencers, the Ernest Jacksons, the Brad Sinopolis, he was an effective fourth or fifth option that routinely found himself open. So if you could put him back in that situation where he succeeded before, might be worth your time. However, my question is, might somebody like a Montreal, want to make him their BJ Cunningham replacement.
What's another option? Like, there are a good amount of receivers. You know, there's still Shaq Johnson, Mayala,
Josh Huff, I believe, maybe.
Josh Huff is in there. PJ Cunningham. You know, you still have Brandon Banks. There's not a lot. You still have Jamarion Grant out of Winnipeg. Like, there are still some receivers that could fall into place before you see a guy like Harris sign, because he might be looking at, a Shaq Johnson and be like, okay, that's kind of my comparable. Let's see what here he goes and whatnot. Because, Ottawa could be looking at Harris. They could be looking at Johnson. There could be a lot of different looks coming from this team.
I think, you've already got your 1 and your 2, right? You've got your Darvin Adams, I think is probably your number 1. I'm interested, by the way, because I'm a nerd. I want to know what number he's wearing, because currently he wore 1 with Winnipeg.
He's probably going to wear 4, because he wore 4 with Winnipeg originally and then switched back to 1. So he'll most likely wear 4 again.
But I'm a nerd and I like that kind of stuff, so that's cool to me.
Same.
Also, receivers wearing single-digit numbers. More
players wearing single digits. I don't care. D lineman wearing single digit. I do not care.
Yeah,
single digit numbers.
Coleman wore 9. That was pretty cool.
He's expected to re-sign with Ottawa.
Yes. Yeah, that would be a big one too. And yeah, Tim mentions it. Like, I've got Darvin Adams as Ottawa's number 1. I've got Jalen Acklin as a number 2. I have Ryan Davis as a number 3. And then, to me, I would have Shaq Johnson is probably one that might happen. He'd be my.
You also have Bahar, right? 4. And
Bahar
really took those steps last year, and I think Bahar is more of a number 3 than Davis. And as much as I like Ryan Davis, I think he's great, but I think Bahar showed that, like, you get him the ball, like he reminds me a lot of Sinopoli. Like, he can catch the ball in those tight contested areas consistently.
The thing with Ryan Davis too, the other thing to consider, with no Devontae Dedmon, he's probably your kick returner. So you kind of have to, like, I don't know if he'll be like primarily number 3. He'll definitely be on the receiving core at some point.
Oh, 100%.
He'll be out there.
Because, I mean, it's a Lapalisse system, right? Like, you can get him the ball. He's one of those guys where you use with William Powell, like, you can get him the ball in so many different ways that you want him on the field as much as possible.
Yeah, like, but to my point, like, I'm just kind of thinking about, like, who else you could add to that. And if it's not Shaq Johnson, I don't think BJ Cunningham has had his name mentioned enough in this free agency.
No, and I mean, if you're a team like, Toronto, for example, I think Cunningham's a perfect fit in Toronto. Hamilton, if you're trying to replace, you look to replace Banks, he's a guy. Cunningham's a great addition for any team in the league.
Yeah.
If you're Winnipeg and if you have the money, I think Cunningham would probably be your best option to kind of replace that Darvin Adams role, because they've already said that Ellingson's going to, they actually said Ellingson's going to slot with
I'm not sure where they said he's going to go, but, like, Ellingson doesn't have the deep speed. Like, Darvin Adams is a deep threat. That's why Ottawa got him, because they don't have that guy.
I mean, they have Davis,
but Davis isn't. Davis is a little different to me, where Darvin Adams is a big guy too. Like, he's like 6'2" of speed, I think, right? Like, he's a deep guy. He can kind of do a lot of things, but, like, his specialty is just get down the field. Ryan Davis isn't necessarily that. He's fast, but he's not burner fast to me. He's still the kind of guy you want to get inside. He's more elusive than fast, I think, is the best way to put it.
That's fair.
But Sherrod said he'd still beat him in a race. He said he beat Caleb in a race. Although he didn't say that he'd beat Devontae Dedmon in a race. I feel like he probably thinks he would. He wouldn't. But yeah, like, Cunningham's a guy that I think we need to be watching. Wherever he goes, like, I'm surprised Montreal didn't re-sign him.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, they don't get me wrong. They re-signed Lewis. They re-signed Stanback. They got Winicky. They have Quan Bray, and I guess
Mario Alfred as well. They re-signed.
They have Alfred. I guess they looked at him and they thought, he was kind of the more expendable option in terms of who was available and whatnot.
Yeah. I just have to. Was William Stanback a free? He wasn't a free agent.
He was a pending free agent.
Was he?
Pretty sure.
Because he was never on the Alouettes list.
Maybe it was a restructured deal. I don't know.
Perhaps. See, okay. I do want to point this out. Larry, this isn't to make fun of you because I've done this a million times myself. I continuously call him Brian Burke as well.
Is that Sean Burke?
It's Sean Burke.
Yeah, because I got confused when I first heard it. I'm like, I just thought, he's the former goalie. I'm like, no, that's not right. It's not right.
Yeah.
But yes, he must be well liked. I mean,
the sentiment is the same.
He was, he was there when Hamilton brought Levels to Hamilton to begin with, so it made kind of sense. Where I was like, I did mention a couple weeks ago that like Levels was there. If they didn't want to bring back Unumba, he was the guy that could potentially be available. And lo and behold, he was brought in.
Yeah. No need to apologize, by the way, Larry. I've done it 8 million times. I've almost published an article where I called him Brian Burke. I thankfully did not do that, but I mean, we're a hockey country, I guess. So, it's pretty easy to make a mistake. But, again, he must be a liked guy because Jeremiah Mazzoli this morning said the first thing that he did when he got to Ottawa was find Sean Burke and give him a big hug.
Yeah, because hey, it is what it is, right?
Here's our topic, Shane.
To retirement. He is going home. That's where he's going. He is going into retirement. I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't necessarily see Trevor Harris being signed yet, to be honest. I think that what happens with Trevor Harris is if somebody gets injured in the middle of the season, perhaps, I don't want to predict injuries, but, there's teams like Winnipeg, like Hamilton, where if their quarterbacks get hurt and things don't go well for them, maybe they give him a call. Just thinking about systems that he'd fit into, but really it could be anybody. If somebody loses a starting quarterback, needs a guy, Trevor Harris will be there. I don't see Harris signing for anything that if he's not a starter. I don't know. Maybe he's had an ego check recently, but if he still believes that he's a top quarterback in the league and that he's a starter, he is not going to sign somewhere that isn't going to give him a chance to start, which kind of just limits him to 2 teams.
At this, who are those 2 teams?
Toronto and Edmonton. Because you're not starting in Calgary. They already have their 2. You're not starting in BC. You're not starting in Winnipeg. You're not starting in Saskatchewan. You're not starting in Montreal. And you're not starting in Hamilton. And obviously not Ottawa. So, that leaves you Toronto to battle with, Pipkin and Bethel Thompson. And Edmonton to battle with, Barrett, Cornelius, and Arbuckle.
But the fact that we haven't even heard that his name has been involved in any talks with the Argonauts, I mean, the Argos have been relatively quiet. We haven't heard a ton about them, but you would think that if they were talking to Trevor Harris, we would have heard about it. And for Edmonton, just the trend they've got right now with signing some more athletic guys, and the fact that we haven't heard anything since they lost out on Mazzoli about them going after Trevor Harris, I think that kind of speaks volumes to me that we're not going to see him get signed at this point, because you're not signing Trevor Harris to be on your practice roster, and we've heard already that BC is looking at O'Connor to back up, and
which makes so much sense. I think the BC connection is too strong for them not to pass up on O'Connor, or for them to pass up on O'Connor.
I do appreciate, though, they're going with 2 Canadian quarterbacks. And that's the kind of thing that I think can jumpstart Canadians playing in the CFL, particularly if O'Connor does get some playing time because he's a U Sports guy.
Yeah, he brought UBC to their first Vanier Cup in forever with a 26-23 win over Montreal as a U Sports freshman. You know, and I think this is interesting where like you look at O'Connor, he went from Penn State to UBC. The question is, if he stayed at Penn State, would he be starting right now? And I think it's a legitimate question where, like, if he stayed in the States, if he stayed in the NCAA, would he be starting for Toronto? Would he never have left Toronto? I think it's a good chance.
Yeah. I'm laughing at this because Tim Baines, of course, writer for the Ottawa Sun. And
the only good writer for the Ottawa Sun.
Very top CFL writer, like I said. T-Bomb's been all over the place this week. But, you know, he's tweeting out about all the signings that the Red Blacks have made. And Danny Austin, who writes for the Calgary Sun and does a very good job there, tweeted out that he said, me and Baines do essentially the exact same job. We're having very different days. And Adam Gose, who's the play-by-play announcer for the Toronto Argonauts, tweeted back a gif of, I believe that's Will Smith just standing in an empty room, which I thought was hilarious.
So I'm not sure what's going on with J Rose.
All we know about him is Sherrod Baltimore is recruiting him, whatever that means. But it doesn't seem like it'll be Ottawa at this point. No,
I mean you signed Darby, to probably already kind of limited. You probably kind of limited who you can bring in because I think Dalby is like a strong side linebacker, so he'll play with levels and he can slide in on the weak side. So they could still sign another defensive back. So we're not really I'm not really sure what I know. Winnipeg is looking to bolster their secondary with some of these losses. So could he be heading to Winnipeg? Possibly. It's very much in play.
Winston Rose and Jonathan Rose connection again. I'd like to see it.
It would be great. Could he go to Toronto? Possibly. It seems like unlikely though, but it is possible. And I think also BC shouldn't be ruled out as a possible landing spot for him.
Yeah. We got a couple questions about Andrew Harris here. One from Larry, and we have one from Brody as well. I'm assuming that Brody is talking about Andrew Harris because we just touched on Trevor Harris. But yeah, we're kind of in the dark too about that. It sounds like it's down to 3 teams, and he's not going back to Winnipeg at this point, I think is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, he represents himself, and it sounds like he's done in Winnipeg, and he'll be looking for a new home.
It was interesting to see that there was some, I think it was described as animosity from both sides, that they were not happy with each other for some reason. And it's weird. A team that went to back-to-back Grey Cups and a guy who won MVP or most MVP and most outstanding Canadian in the 2019 Grey Cup is just pissed off at his former team.
Unfortunately, this is what happens when players represent themselves. You know, we saw it, and you know, you get told things that you may not like. You may end up feeling a little bit of anger towards them, but this is why agents are important, because the whole job of a GM is to negotiate, and with how they negotiate is using your flaws as a reason why, to give you a lower salary, and then you use your pros as a reason why they should give you a higher salary. Andrew Harris was hurt for a lot of last year. Brady Oliveira and Augustine kind of stepped in that role, and they performed well. So I think, it's already a notch against Harris, in that sense. And it just kind of boiled over, and I think Harris felt like he wasn't going to be valued, and Winnipeg may have felt that, hey, we have 2 guys that are ready to take over for you. We don't need a 3-headed horse or a three-headed monster in the backfield right now. So we're going to move on.
Yeah. Danny Austin also said that it's not a great day for the CFL transactions page to be down, in his humble opinion.
Yep.
I mean, that transaction page is brutal. Just want to point that out there.
It's horrible. The way the CFL free agency thing is worked on the CFL website is horrible. Also, Larry,
we really appreciate it. That.
We appreciate the support, and I guess this is a good segue in terms of remember to follow us, subscribe on YouTube, give us a follow, a like, wherever you're following on. If you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, we're on Instagram as well. We appreciate the support. But yeah, this is gonna be fun. We're probably going to do this for about another hour, and then take a little bit of a break, and then be back on probably around 4:00 to do another like 2 or 3 hour segment. I don't think we're going to do a full day worth of YouTube or of streaming. Give our voices a little bit of a break. But man, it's been awfully quiet.
Shane, I know you're going to like this one. I like this. Dave, we so much appreciate it. We're still thankful for all the work you did with us. You've got a couple of articles with us that still stick with me, including, if you never read it, Dave wrote a article for us after the 2020 season was canceled, basically comparing the lost season to an Elvis song, A Mess of Blues, and that was one of the favorite articles that has ever been written on our site.
Yeah, you're welcome to come back anytime. And we appreciate all the support, guys. I think we're probably going to start doing some more live stuff in the near future, because if this is something you guys want, we can definitely make it work.
Yeah. I'll be honest, it's getting difficult right now because nothing is happening.
Yeah.
Why is nothing happening?
I think maybe we'll take maybe this might be a good time to take a quick break. Let people go stretch their legs, get some water and whatnot. We'll be right back after a quick break, and hopefully there might be some more things to talk about. Oh my God, so much things are going on. But we're back.
Well, do you know what else is going on here, Shane?
I just saw the tweet from the Red Blacks. They just brought back Devon Devon Coleman. I don't know if there was anything else that happened that I didn't see that I was trying to get some technical difficulties worked out.
Something else just happened behind the scenes.
What?
In a half-hour time, we will be speaking to Mike Alway.
Yo, bet! No, I did not that. I've been dealing with some technical difficulties, which is why I thought the break was a perfect time to go into. But I got those technical difficulties worked out, so I am okay now, and everything is fine. Let me just load this stupid thing that I've been trying to load for like 20 hours. Where the hell did it go? Here it is.
Yeah, so let's plug that here in about 30 minutes time.
Seems so around
1:30. Yeah, we're gonna have Micah Alway, and it's gonna be about 10-15 minutes. We're just gonna chat to him about free agency, how things have been looking for him so far, and just checking in on things with him.
Oh, BC Lions just announced Sean White is heading back to BC.
Okay.
He is heading back to BC for another round. We really need to go through our DMs.
On what?
You just have a couple of message requests. Also, how did I see that behind the scenes? Where would it be behind the scenes? Because there's no messages. So.
My Instagram.
What?
My Instagram account.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, we'll be talking to Mike Alway. I'm gonna just post that on Twitter real quick and just be like,
yep.
But yeah, man. So now it's starting to peak up a little bit. We got our graphic going. Maybe we'll just get a background properly put in here because.
What, you didn't like our purple squares?
I have no issue with it, but it'd be nicer to have something a little bit nicer, you know? Unless I deleted it by accident, which it looks like I did. Probably because I'm a numbnut and sometimes, and
another one just came down. Toby Antigua to the Edmonton Elks. So wouldn't describe that as a massive one, I don't think, but definitely an addition for the Elks that's not going to hurt them in any way.
Yeah, I mean, a good depth signing, right? That's all at some point you kind of need those.
Yeah, I kind of glossed over your comment about Sean White there, but what? I'm just shocked that the Elks let that one happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But so here's my thing, right? We've already heard the Elks are kicking the tires on Sergio Castillo. So, if they end up picking him up, it kind of is what it is, I guess, right? But then for Winnipeg, you just went through a season where your biggest issue the entire time was your kicker, right? You bring in Castillo, that issue's finally solved. You literally went through a kicker a game, it felt like. They're going back to that. And I'm not sure, maybe the money is the issue for Castillo and they couldn't get something done, but just where do they go? They've got to bring somebody in.
Yeah, I mean, this really does not look good.
Yeah, that's not working. Put it back. I want my purple squares. Yay! My purple squares.
Okay there, Frankie. Can't see this comment. Who will be Bombers' backup? Good question.
Ooh, can we talk about the kicker first?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's the kicker? Go for it.
I don't know.
I saw people say John Ryan's available. I guess, But the thing with Winnipeg is they're probably so close on the cap situation that do they want to have a second two kickers,
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like sometimes you're just going to have to bite the bullet and try bringing in another kicker. But I don't know. Oh, so for Stanback, it was the contract extension. So I would assume that he had 1 year left.
He had another. He must have, because I'm almost certain he signed a 2-year deal when he came back from Vegas, right?
I would think so. But Bombers backup. We talked a little bit about it earlier in the show. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Watford out of Hamilton's third stringer might be a good option. Hacker is someone that could be available.
Harker,
Isaac Harker.
He'll be available, but I don't think that he's good enough. And I don't want to crap on him, right? He's a really good guy. We talked to him before, but I think he's a Yankees fan. If you remember correctly, and
possibly.
No, I remember this because the night that we talked to him, it was I think it was the first night we did a live stream for 13th Man Sports rather than 13th Man Podcast, right? And I remember that night Derek Fisher had a ball bounce off his forehead, and Isaac was giggling about it, but I was very mad, and I had to not pretend like I wasn't mad. But anyway, I'm not sure that he's going to be around next year unless it's like as a third string guy. But it's weird what Winnipeg has got going on because I don't think Sean McGuire is the option. I don't think Drew Brown is the option. Could it be Matt Nichols? I don't know. And I don't know with him because the shoulder was such a limitation for him last year. And after he got hurt, he never threw a football at practice again.
Yeah, I don't think Nichols is. I don't think Nichols is it.
It's like he's a good quarterback, right? When he's healthy, and it's tough because he was literally on an MOP pace before he got hurt, right? He was probably top 3 quarterback in the CFL when that happened, and it fell apart entirely, and it was so not fair to him that happened. But it's
I mean, yeah, Strevler is an option that I totally forgot about.
Is it though? Is he? Because right now he's signed to a contract with Arizona, or not with Arizona, with Baltimore. Sorry.
No, he isn't. He's a free agent.
If he was on the practice squad before,
I mean, he just worked out for the Jets. So
did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they can afford him.
Oh no, he wants starter money. I don't think he's going to get it. So
no, but it's. I don't know, man. That to me, that situation is an odd one because I think that Strevler's still good enough to stick around at a practice squad level in the NFL. And if he does that, he's still going to get paid more for, his time than he would in the CFL. And I don't know where he fits as a backup in Winnipeg just because of the money he's probably going to want. I don't know. I just don't know where he would be going. And
yeah.
Okay, I do want to highlight this quickly. It kind of was that Matt Nichols got hurt because Zach Collaros came out of it, and I don't necessarily think that Winnipeg wouldn't have won the Grey Cup if Matt Nichols stayed healthy the whole season. That team was still really, really good. Matt Nichols was playing an unbelievable level, and I don't remember this exactly, but were they not towards the top of the West regardless, and then when Strevler came in they started losing?
I do not remember.
I'm pretty because I remember they kind of struggled with Strevler a little bit, and that's what led them to get Collaros.
Yeah, but Strevler got hurt, right? He had that ankle injury.
Yeah, so it was kind of all over the place.
Strevler. And Davis signed with Montreal.
Yeah,
Dominic Davis is in Montreal. He's the backup in Montreal. He replaced Schultz. But
that would have been an ideal number 2, Matthew Schultz, to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all about money, right? I think Hamilton fits him better than Winnipeg, in my opinion. But man, it is awfully quiet.
It is very quiet. Yeah, man, there was options for Winnipeg, Matt O'Connor, I think would still have been a good one. There's still other guys, and I think we might be underestimating a college free agent kind of guy. Maybe Drew Brown is actually better than we think he is, and he can back up. The good thing about a backup there is around them, their offensive line is still top notch. They still have some really good receivers, even though they lost Kenny Lawler. They still have Augustine and Oliveira, so they have a running game. I'm not necessarily worried about who they bring in at a backup spot. It would be nice to have somebody who you can win games with, but if you have to bring in a guy like David Watford, I think you can still get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy how quiet it's been right now. Like,
who's Sweet Pea? Do you know?
Powell.
William?
Pretty sure, yeah. So he's in Ottawa. He came back to Ottawa, which
we'll see if that's who he's actually talking about. Yeah, Dave mentioned it too. The West has been quiet, and I think that has a lot to do with Winnipeg's strung for cash, Calgary's strung for cash, Edmonton just is. I feel like they're trying to make moves and failing, and that's why they've offered so many massive contracts to guys. And BC is an odd one too because they've got big names, but I think Red Blacks fans feared that the Red Blacks would be doing exactly what BC is doing right now, and that's adding playmakers and kind of neglecting the offensive line.
Yeah, but I mean, again, there's not many offensive linemen available to grab.
No, but I mean, you can't grab none.
No, but you re-sign the ones that you have available and just hope that like a full training camp will allow people to. Just confirmed. Purifoy is heading back to BC.
Yeah, that was who I was referring to, and I was talking about some of their big names. I mean, obviously as well. There's, where is it here? Oh, maybe that is it. That is it in terms of their big names from outside help they've added. But like they've still got some solid players in that team. I'm still confident that Nathan Rourke is the guy. And I do want to check. He mentioned Sweet Pea as a receiver for the Tiger Cats, but I honestly don't know who that is.
Yeah, I've never. Are
we talking about Pappy White? Maybe
he signed.
Yeah, that's that maybe who he's talking about. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I need something to happen here.
Yeah, it's been rather quiet on the breaking front.
Yeah.
I want to see where Shaq Johnson goes. He's been real suspicious on Twitter.
Yeah. I'm just kind of like, who else is...
Also, can we talk about Purifoy's Twitter handle?
Walking turnover?
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, if you don't know his position, it could sound like he's just a bad quarterback.
Well, you have to know who he is.
That's the thing, though, is that if you don't know who he is, it sounds like he's a bad quarterback. But also, can we talk about like the kind of confidence to give yourself that kind of handle? Like walking turnover, like that's some pretty ballsy confidence.
Sean Lemon is still around too. We're kind of waiting.
That's usually how it goes.
There's not even rumors regarding him right now. It's kind of weird that he's just not being mentioned. Really, like
that's how it goes. He's one of those guys that like teams just bring in at the last second. Like he just seems like one of those guys that like doesn't really get mentioned, even though he should.
I have to find out who Sweet Pea is. I'm looking.
Again, I thought Powell was Sweet Pea, but I'm clearly mistaken.
That's Wipo, bro.
Like I wouldn't mind if, and I mean I can understand why it's a little bit more quiet right now because the league has to approve every contract. So it's probably a little bit quieter. But honestly, I wouldn't mind Lemon back in Ottawa. But actually, Purefoy.
There's not really room for him right now, though.
Why Ellis is gone?
You could. Wouldn't be shocked to see Onyeka get a shot, though.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind that either.
But, I mean, you've kind of set 3 of your 4 spots there with Boateng, Lang, and Coleman.
And Maldine.
Well, actually, then, yeah, you've got your 4 set pretty much. So,
my thinking, though, back to the Purefoy real quick. Remember when Purefoy left Ottawa?
yes.
And, he's back in BC, which means that the issue might not have been Campbell, but one of the other coaches in there.
Well, this was also a culture thing, was it? Like, I remember that he was cut because of not his play on the field.
No, it was him headbutting against the one that I'm not gonna name names, but he was cut because of differences with a certain coach.
Yeah.
And he was pretty forthcoming about it.
Yeah.
That he got cut because he didn't agree with a certain coach
Go ahead
doing
and name it.
What?
Go ahead and name him.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to name drop like that. So him going to BC with another coach kind of makes me wonder, how much of that, how messed that Ottawa culture was in 2019. How bad that culture
That was
must
18.
have been. Yeah, but he was there till 19.
Are you sure? Because I'm almost certain he was in. Let's look him up real quick.
The DC? Thorpe?
No. I'm talking about.
Oh, Purefoy. Yeah, Purefoy was, I believe, in 18. He got cut halfway through 18.
Yeah.
But I think he was. But
because I remember he played with Saskatchewan. He was picked up pretty quickly after.
Yeah, because he's a great talent.
Yeah. Yeah, he spent 7 games in Ottawa. He had 1 interception, and then he got cut. Spent 10 games in Sask, had 3 picks.
Yeah,
and he's never gone a season without an interception. He's a good player, and it was a little bit frustrating to be a fan at that point too, because you were getting rid of a good player, and the defense in that season wasn't
the best.
Amazing. Yeah, you had, I think it was Randall Evans, or no, it wasn't Randall Evans. Who was it? His last name was Randall. Or number 7. Former Bombers DB.
I can't remember.
Oh,
you mean Speedy B?
Oh, Sweet Pea.
Speedy B. No one calls him Sweet Pea anymore. Speedy B.
When did Sweet Pea? When was that a thing?
I think when he was first in the league.
Really?
I think it's a Hamilton thing. But I've only ever known him as Speedy B.
Yeah, I figured Sweet Pea would have a P in his name somewhere. Yeah. Now I know who you're talking about. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about Brandon Banks for a second then. Where do we see him going? Because there was a lot of rumors about Ottawa being the place, but we've seen a lot of guys come in. I think Darvin Adams might be in that spot that they expected him to go to. Where can he go?
Retirement.
You think so? You really think Brandon Banks is done in football?
I don't think he has much of a choice.
I think he's going to have a spot.
He might be a late off-season signing, but I feel like if he was going to sign, he was going to be signing by now.
I think you've basically known for almost a week that you're not going back to Hamilton. You've basically had a week to talk to other teams. It's the same thing with Harris. You've had so much time to talk to teams. You would think that if a team was interested in you and you would have found the right match right now. Just quickly, I want to bring this one up. Nightcrawler asked if Darvin Adams is signed in Ottawa, and he has. So
it's unofficial. It's not hasn't been announced by the team, but
yeah, he basically confirmed it on his Twitter though, because I think it was Stanley Bryant tweeted something out about it, and he said it's all love, brother. So basically, read between the lines there. He kind of confirmed it, but There was an interesting one here. I can't find it now. About going cheap to Winnipeg for Brandon Banks, and I could see it, but I think that he has a couple of options. Honestly, like I think it depends what he wants to do, whether he still wants to be a focal point in the offense. He could, in theory, go back to being a kick returner, and I think he'd still be pretty effective at it because he's still Speedy B, and if that's the case, could he still be linked to Ottawa? I think it's possible. I think he could also go to Winnipeg. I think Toronto might be looking for a guy like that. I think Montreal might be looking for a guy like Speedy B just to kind of boost fan engagement in that city, right? Like, I think there's going to be somebody who wants Brandon Banks. Brandon Banks will be in the league next season.
Possibly. I feel like the expectations for him should be rather low. Again, when you have so long of it, you have like a week to talk to teams and figure out things. The fact that there hasn't been like a sniffle of it is kind of what's going on. Like, it is kind of where my issues lie. But we are expected to talk to Micah Awe in about 10 minutes or so. We'll go over some of the signings that have been at least confirmed so far. Edmonton has probably been the one that's confirmed the most of them, with BC and Winnipeg right there. Montreal's confirmed some, but we have DB Lucius Purifoy and kicker Sean White going to BC. Offensive lineman Mark Cordy, Ed Gainey, and Dion Lacey isn't confirmed. I don't think. I haven't seen anything confirming Dion Lacey outside of just like
Original
some of the
reports. Yeah.
Going to going to Edmonton, and then Craig Ellingson is was the first official signing of the day, going to Winnipeg.
Yeah, so he's off the board. And this is exactly what I'm saying. I agree with Tim 100%. If Brandon Banks decides that he's willing to be a kick punt returner again, I think that his options all of a sudden open up, across the league. I don't think I think there's everybody but one team that's looking for a kick returner at this point, to be honest with you. And I think it's just Montreal that doesn't really need one because they have Mario Alford.
Yeah, I mean, Sean White has been official signing. It was just released by the CFL. So the kicker goes back to BC after a 6-year stint with Edmonton.
This is a bold prediction from Daniel here, by the way. Brandon Banks, 1,500-yard receiver with the Bombers. Could have the issue that Brandon Banks has is it's just his frame. He's a great receiver. He's got all kinds of speed. He's just really small. He's really slight. Like if he... Oh, Ellingson. I was talking about Ellingson. That could very well happen. That very well could happen, But yeah, I'll just continue my point about Brandon Banks. If he was, say, 6 foot and just a little bit heavier, I think his career would have been lengthened. But you never know.
So it is official. Ted Laurent, about 20 minutes ago, we missed it. Ted Laurent has officially re-signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Yeah,
which was huge. That's a huge player. He's a ratio breaker. He's a defensive tackle. Seeing him re-sign in Hamilton is huge. I know Ottawa. I think Ottawa was linked to him. Calgary showed interest in him. So I'm not really happy that he's back in Hamilton, but I'm also happy that he's back in Hamilton because continuity and consistency with player turnover is key. And to be fair, we have seen a lot of players stay with their respective teams.
We have, particularly with some of the better teams. I mean, Ottawa and Edmonton let a lot of players go, and rightfully so. The teams were
when you finish 3-11, and you've only had 5 wins or 4 wins in 2 years in Ottawa's case, you're going to see a lot of turnover with a new regime.
We'll touch on this too. I think Brody asked this one a little bit earlier up, and then we forgot about it. But Rough Riders and their quarterback situation. Right now, it's just Cody Fajardo. They don't really have much help. And is there a chance they bring in a veteran?
Yeah, but I mean, what veteran are you bringing in?
At this point, the only 2 veteran guys that are out there really are David Watford and Trevor Harris.
Yeah, I don't see either of them being good enough or worthy of bringing. I mean, okay, no, Watford I do. I like Watford. I think he's good enough. He can be a guy but he's not a vet. He's not someone to help Fajardo grow.
He's been around though, right?
But he's not someone that can help Fajardo grow.
Yeah, at this point though, Cody Fajardo himself is a veteran, right? Cody should be able to.
Cody's been in the league since 2015 or so.
Cody's not 25 anymore. He shouldn't necessarily need somebody to be brought in to show him what to do. He should know, right?
Yeah, he was a backup behind Ricky Ray and Michael Riley. He should know what he's the vet. He's the vet. You should be bringing in someone to learn under Fajardo, not bring in someone to teach Fajardo kind of thing.
Yeah. It's almost like at this point, you're not necessarily looking to replace Fajardo, obviously, but you are kind of looking to bring in somebody who Cody can help. You're past the point of him being the guy who gets help. Now he is the help. So and Dave mentioned it there. They're high on Mason Fine. Can Mason Fine be their backup quarterback?
What about Lynch? Paxton? I know there's issues with him, but he's still in the roster. If those issues go away, could Paxton Lynch slot into that backup role?
He could, I think, but I'm starting to get lost in our comments here.
So we don't know who's going to be the backup for the QB. Should they bring in a veteran? Yes, but it shouldn't be someone to help teach Fajardo in that sense.
I think at this point for Saskatchewan, it's just bring in the guy who you think is going to be the best quarterback for your team. And that's another good point from Nightcrawler on our YouTube. I think there was talks about Paxton Lynch not being vaccinated.
Yeah, no, that was the issues I was referring to. I just didn't want to straight up say it. But yeah, that's why he was sent home by the Riders, because he wasn't vaxxed and they didn't he was their 4th string quarterback at the time, so they're just go home. So maybe that has changed, and he is back next season. Who knows? He hasn't been released yet, so maybe he will be. But this one from Jose is BC wants a Canadian backfield. Do you think they'll bring Harris back? Also, no word of QB Harris in BC yet. So last we heard, it sounds more likely that we will see a double Canadian quarterback 1-2 in BC, with O'Connor heading to BC. That was the last we heard, and I think that was Farhan sometime last night.
Yeah.
Harris going back to BC, very hot. I would not be surprised if that ends up being the case. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Andrew Harris back in BC, but I don't expect Trevor Harris to be in BC.
Yeah. But I mean, Andrew Harris would be a very, very good addition to that team, because at running back right now, BC
is thin.
They're thin. It's right now, Jamel Lyles and Chris Rainey are both free agents and don't look like they're going to be back. They have David Mackey, Mario Villamizar, I think is how you pronounce that name. But neither, they just don't really have a guy that jumps off the page to me as a number 1 running back. And Andrew Harris is a guy who has familiarity in that city. He's been there before. the team seems committed to building a contingent of star Canadian talent, which I can really appreciate that. For them to come out and say Nathan Rourke is our guy, I think that puts confidence in a Canadian kid to be the next Russ Jackson. And I think Andrew Harris would be a really good fit for that team if they can build him an offensive line.
Exactly. But quickly, Kenny Lawler to the Edmonton Elks has officially been announced by the Elks. So he will be in the green and yellow for the 2022 season, making a whopping $300,000 in 2022 of hard money. He reportedly turned down, speaking about BC, he reportedly turned down a $250,000 hard money with $50K signing bonus. Overpayment, yes. The question I have is taking $300K hard money over the $250K hard money plus a $50,000 bonus worth it? Was that the right move?
Who knows? Who knows? That's a lot of money. And sorry, I wasn't really paying attention there because Shaq Johnson has also just announced that he's leaving BC for certain. So
makes sense.
Doesn't seem like we have a definitive landing spot for Shaq Johnson yet. But
I would assume it's most likely going to be out west or out east.
Probably. And I think he's been retweeting a lot of Red Blacks and Argos stuff recently.
Been liking a lot of my stuff about the Red Blacks. So.
Yeah. So he's kind of
like he literally just retweeted about 6 minutes ago about Devontae Denman. But he's from Toronto, so like he could go back to Toronto.
Yeah.
So, but before we get over, we have a very special guest in our waiting room right now. He's been on the show a couple of times before. I've had the pleasure to talk to him a couple of times. Let's introduce the guest of the show, Micah Alway. How's it going?
Good. How are y'all?
Good.
We're really good. Awesome. How are things with you? I mean, you must be kind of just waiting things out right now.
Yeah. So my situation is actually a bit different. Not many people know, but I guess I'm announcing it now. But I've had a couple offers, or not offers, but interest from teams, because before they give me any kind of offer, I'm telling them that I'm kind of right now I'm waiting for NFL opportunities. So that's kind of the plan right now. So I've had, like I said, I've had a couple of teams already contact me, but they all know, and I just been straightforward with them, not trying to play both sides, and letting them know that I'm looking for an NFL opportunity. And if that doesn't work out, then obviously it's going to be free agency then. But we'll see what happens.
Have you talked to some NFL teams?
Any
interest?
So right now, it's just like quiet because all the Senior Bowls and stuff like that, and obviously a guy like me is not going to be. I don't have the hype of everyone else and stuff like that. So, I'm just looking for an opportunity to get in a training camp and open some eyes, just like I did in the CFL. So, I think it's just the time to do that, and I just think the CFL and everyone who's giving me opportunity to try to get another shot again. So that's how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, that's some big news dropping on our show. We feel honored that you told us on our show that you're waiting for that. So how has the process been, over like the week legal tampering period? How has everything been? Like, has it been very, more casual, more formal? When Burke came in Ottawa, like, how did that, have you had conversations with him?
Yeah, so I've had conversations with him and a couple other scouts and stuff like that, and GMs. And, honestly, I just don't want to, because free agency in the CFL is probably a lot more important than it is in the NFL, just because the way things happen. So for the respect of the teams, I'm just telling them straightforward so that they don't, put me in their plans to have me in February, and then I tell them, oh, well, I'm actually waiting for an NFL opportunity. I think it's fair to do that for the teams. I know what I'm risking. I know what I'm sacrificing, but that's just who I am. I mean, I'm not out there to be an average linebacker. And if I don't get opportunity in the NFL, then I'll be coming back playing angry, which is what I need anyways. So this for me is just something I need to do personally, and something that, I mean, when you're the leading tackler for all will linebackers in the CFL with 74, and you're fourth tackling in the league, and I had 3 forced fumbles. They didn't count one, but I had 3 forced fumbles, 3 sacks. I've seen guys with lesser stats and lesser athletic abilities ball out in the NFL. So that's just kind of where I'm at, is just looking at the numbers. I've always kind of been the athlete that didn't really get the recognition I deserve initially. I remember at Texas Tech, I mean, that was my only offer. Yet I'm pretty sure from the whole Big 12 class from my year, I'm the only one that's still playing linebacker professionally. And I only had one offer. But, senior year, 127 tackles. I didn't get any bowl game invite, no senior bowl game invite. And you just wonder how that happens, because, year in, year out, I produce. I mean, in the CFL and the NFL, or with the few snaps I got in the NFL, I broke Carson Wentz's ribs. So it's just like, I'm not trying to be, a lot of guys kind of shoot for dreams, and, they're like, oh, I can definitely do this. But, I feel like, yeah, I'm shooting for a dream, but it's more so like a goal, because it's like, I definitely showed the stats. I mean, I know I'm productive, and every time I touch the field, I'm productive. So to me, it's not really ridiculous to go shoot my shot.
I want to take the attention just quickly off the field, because you mentioned not getting the recognition, and you have Purple Shift, right, which is a tool literally built to get talent that might not be recognized, get them recognized. So just like your personal experiences, that must have been one of the reasons that you wanted to start that.
That is the reason why I started it. I truly believe the main, and probably one of the main reasons why I'm not I didn't get a real shot in NFL is they had me at 4.67 40-yard dash. I mean, you guys look at fantasy, you guys keep up with NFL, CFL. A smaller linebacker running a 4.67 is not draftable. You would never recruit them. If you all were GMs, you would never do that, and that's what I got run down as. It was a 4.67, and I can guarantee I'd run a 4.67. With Purple Shift technology, I run a 4.41. So it's just, that's why I built Purple Shift, because it's annoying that real information isn't out there, and that people wonder why, oh man, where did this athlete come from? Well, it's because some scout got him at a 4.8 on his pro day, but he really runs a 4.4. So you think he's amazing, but now he's an undrafted free agent. And I mean, if you just think about the whole recruiting system on all levels, CFL, NFL, high school, college, how do we have the GOAT, who just retired, Tom Brady, go 6th round in the draft? He's not a first round pick. He's not first overall. Yet we're over here calling him the GOAT. And to me, that's where the system is broken. It's not just me saying that. Tom Brady should have never been picked 6th round for being the GOAT, but he was. And yet we keep doing the same thing year in, year out, and not putting the real data out there, So it definitely is the big reason behind it. And hopefully Purple Shift helps me to get back to where I want to be.
You haven't had it for super, super long yet. I think it's been around for a year and a half, 2 years. Am I right in that, or been longer?
It's literally like a year. So
Okay.
Like a year and a month, So it was January 2020 when I first came out with the first version of the app. So It's been a year.
I mean, it's obviously not a very long time. How have you seen not only the user base just increase? I know that you're seeing more and more new people every day, but have you seen any results with it yet that people will tell you about?
Man, so it's coming on slowly, but you got to build small, and then you'll grow larger. But Football Ontario and Football Canada have been huge partners. I've been in talks with them. Jim Mullen, Eric Geisler, JT, they've been really huge advocates of it because they understand that, Canada is kind of like my story. Canada athletes just automatically get the, oh, well, they're not as good tag put on them for no good reason. And it's kind of like, this is an app that can finally just say like, okay, well, it's deserved. Like you deserve to have that tag or you don't. But now athletes actually have the power to put that out there and be like, well, if you still want to skip me in the draft, I run a 4.4. You can't lie about that. Numbers don't lie. So that's kind of like what's been helping with the growth of it. And right now we're doing something with Football Camp Ontario and building their U20 team and all the Football Ontario teams. And then I even have 2 athletes right now who signed up from Nigeria, who are trying to get opportunities in North America, whether it's Canada, America, anywhere. So it's growing in weird places, but nevertheless, it is growing.
We didn't just bring you on to plug Purple Shift, of course, but
hey, I mean, Purple Shift is fantastic. I love it.
Exactly.
I love it. I remember when you were talking to me about it, and I downloaded it and I was going through it. It's a fantastic app. It's fantastic for recruits, and I'm really happy to hear that you're working with Football Ontario, because playing football in Ottawa, there wasn't like, if you weren't a skill position, and if you didn't play provincial and if you didn't have those connections, you were skipped. You weren't looked at as a top end recruit unless you were in with everybody. And a lot of people didn't have the ability to get their talent shown. So Purple Shift is changing the game. I've even seen it mentioned in the local football community here in Ottawa. I've seen some of the clubs, the NACAFA clubs, start mentioning it. I've seen parents talk about it. I actually had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about with a parent about it, because they were talking about how they're trying to help their kid find, more ways to reach out and get his stuff shown. And I brought it up, and it's getting out there and it's gaining traction, and I think it's part of the next wave of recruiting for all sports, because it's more than just football.
Yeah. And again, the biggest thing that I think it does is just puts the control back in the athlete. And football sports should never be about who you know or what you're affiliated with. It should be about what you do on the field. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because again, careers are ended over fake numbers. Careers are never started over fake numbers. But luckily my hit on Carson Wentz was big enough to finally get CFL teams to call me, because before that hit, I had nothing. I had absolutely no CFL teams after me. After the training camp, it would have been end of my career. But luckily, and that's why I like the CFL so much, is because they don't go after the big names. That's not part of the formula. They create, basically big names create themselves. So they actually get the top of the top in this NFL that, end up not having a chance, because they realize there's a lot of athletes, and you can almost bet 80% of the athletes that get signed to the CFL are high talented guys that could be starters in NFL. They're just getting overlooked. And that's the sad part. And, the sad part is that a lot of people think the CFL is a kind of like a JUCO in sorts, but they don't realize that the athletes are actually could be starters, Pro Bowlers in NFL. And I mean, look at Alex Singleton, look at Sam McGuavin. Like these are guys that are linebackers. Alex Singleton leading, one of the top tacklers in the NFL, was a top tackler in the CFL. So it translates. So it's just one of those things that it's super obvious to me as a player. But again, you wonder why teams in NFL keep being last every single year. It's because they keep doing the same thing they've been doing for years, and they just need to watch Moneyball. They would get my point. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Well, we don't want to take up too much of your time this afternoon, so I'll ask you one more about Purple Shift, and then we'll move forward a little bit. But obviously, you're running a company basically while you're also playing professional football at an exceptionally high level. Just what was that like for you this season? And then if you do end up going to the NFL, which we really hope you do, what are you expecting that to look like?
Yeah, it was first I want to say like the Red Blacks were just such a great team all around. Everyone from the ownership group all the way down to Drew and everyone in the training staff and equipment staff and the coaches, just real good people all around, and they still are. So me talking about Purple Shift, and there's kind of like a little bit of a taboo of athletes doing stuff outside of football, and it makes them seem like they're not focused on football, and it's completely observed to me because playing Division I football at Texas Tech and being an engineer, I did that. I mean, I was a captain of my team my senior year. Like I said, I led the Big 12 in tackles, number 15 in the country, and I was also an engineer on the side. And no one ever says being a student athlete distracts you from being a student athlete. So me running Purple Shift was just part of my life. It's the blessing and curse of being the CFL is that most of the time, if you're not making quarterback money, you have to have a job. But that is a blessing because a lot of athletes don't think about life after work until it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't get any calls. So it's something that was really good for me, and I'm glad Purple Shift has everything to do with football and athleticism. And it actually motivates me because I post on Purple Shift and I want to make sure I'm still fast and jumping higher than all the other athletes on there. So it goes hand in hand. And again, I really think Purple Shift and could actually help lead me back into the NFL with showing just like the real numbers. So it was a really great experience.
We have a question from one of the listeners right now. I mean, I don't know how you can possibly answer this without upsetting some people, but I know that you'd go wherever a contract came to you, but is there a place maybe that you were a fan of growing up that you would love to play for?
Oh man, that's a funny question, but like they probably already know, the PC answer is it doesn't matter who gives me a contract, because I mean, whoever gives me a contract is an opportunity to go on that team and do what I need to do. But I'm from Arlington area, Mansfield, which Arlington, Texas, if you go look that up, that's where Dallas Cowboys are. So I grew up a fan, but I also grew up a fan of being a Texas Longhorn, and I'm definitely not a Longhorn fan. So so that's just from demographics, what my former NFL team is, and ironically, they have a guy named Micah on their team. So. Yeah. Like, dang, I think I missed out on that spot.
Look, I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan based on my Bills hoodie that I'm wearing, and you can't see it, but I am wearing Bills pajama pants right now as well.
Of course you are.
So
nice.
Yeah, but all I'm saying, my guys, if you wanna ring, definitely Buffalo if they're there. That's where you should go.
I actually did go to Buffalo mini camp in 2018. After I got cut from the Jets, and that was a good experience. I was the Sam linebacker, and Tremaine Edmonds was the Mike, so I was able to play with him because we were like all starting. So I can say I played with Tremaine Edmonds, which he's a pretty good linebacker.
Yeah. Tim also asked when you learned about the CFL.
When did I learn about it?
Yeah.
I learned about it the day after I hit Carson Wentz. My agent called me and said, hey, like these two CFL teams are interested in you and want to sign you. I was like, what CFL is that stand for? He's like, Canadian Football League. I was like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, I've never heard of that before until literally the day after I hit Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, he got broken ribs. You got a CFL career out of it. So I think that's a win-win.
Yeah.
Not for Carson Wentz, it's not.
He's still making mad money, so I don't think he minds overly much.
No, I don't think he cares.
Still one of the higher paid quarterbacks in the league, pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have anything else, Micah, because like I said, I don't want to keep you too long, and we definitely went more than the 10 minutes that I told you. But
You're fine.
That's how it goes.
Unless Shane, you got something else, we'll let you get out of here.
Don't forget about us when you make it big in the NFL. Right?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I really appreciate y'all giving me the time of day. It really does help, whether athletes say it or not. We read a lot of the stuff that y'all write, and just being honest is probably the best thing you can do. And, for me, anytime I read anything negative about me, I mean, that's just what makes me go even harder to prove them wrong or prove them right. So you guys have been super supportive of the Red Blacks and also my career, and I appreciate that.
Hey, we still have the purple shift up on the website, and we'll have it up on the website until you tell us to take it off. So
that's fine.
We'll keep supporting the purple shift because it's a great initiative. But yeah, we appreciate you coming back, and best of luck with the NFL opportunities. And if they don't work out, well, welcome back to the CFL with open arms, no matter what team you land on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And keep being positive. We you're one of, along with Nate Bahar, you guys were phenomenal to talk to all season, even though it was a tough season. You guys are literally two of the best people I've ever met. So keep doing that.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Micah.
Yeah. Thank y'all. Bye.
See ya. Man, that was a beauty of a conversation. So breaking news. Sorry, I got real excited for it.
Yeah, I saw this and I almost texted you.
Shaq Johnson, according to who is it?
Farhan Lalji.
Is it Farhan? I thought it was.
And Dave Naylor.
I saw Dave Naylor going first. Dave Naylor, according to Dave Naylor, Shaq Johnson is heading to Ottawa to be a Red Black.
Yeah. So one of the other things I want to mention here is I saw somebody say that Ottawa and Edmonton don't have a salary cap this year, blah, 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 whatever. Ottawa didn't sign 12 of their starters from last season, for one. For two, there's an additional $1 million that each team can spend towards the salary cap this year that they agreed to not spend last year. So that's a substantial pot of money, particularly when you lose Matt Nichols and Dominic Davis, who were probably in the range of $500,000 combined. Yep. You lose... they lost a lot of starters who they probably committed a fair amount of money to, even if they didn't play particularly well. So, I said it last year. I didn't think Edmonton or Toronto went over the salary cap. I don't think any team has done it this year so far either.
And then I don't know if you saw it, but Martin Comtois retweeted you.
Yes, he did.
So, yeah, man, what a break for us. Getting that kind of news on here that he's looking for NFL opportunities. I feel super pleasurable about that. But wow.
I wanted to plug Purple Shift a little bit there too.
Just Purple Shift's fantastic. Yeah, it's on our website. If you need to, it's on Apple Store and the Google Store. It's great, and it's great for all sports. It's not just designed for football. It is great for hockey, baseball, basketball. Like, it's so multi-use. But yeah, that's a big signing, or reported signing. Obviously, nothing's official until the team announces it. Man, I hope he makes it. Like, I really hope.
Yeah, like he's genuinely. I meant to ask him about playing with Avery Williams, because he's another guy who I think has been significantly underrated in the eyes of NFL teams, right? Like he is way too good not to be playing there, but for whatever reason, just they haven't taken notice. And I think Mike is in the same boat. He absolutely deserves a chance to play in the NFL. And I genuinely, as a massive CFL fan myself, I seriously hope that he gets an opportunity there, because it just seems like everywhere that he's gone, he's proven people wrong.
He's had success.
Yeah, exactly. So, like,
I wish nothing of the best to Micah in his into his NFL opportunities. Hopefully, it's with Pittsburgh. I'm not gonna lie. Screw the Bills. They don't get anything nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
I like how
I'm
you're
leaving.
wearing NFL. I like how you're wearing NFL gear for a CFL
I
show.
couldn't wear Red Blacks gear today. I have to look somewhat neutral.
You could just wear like a shirt like this, like a random shirt that has
I
nothing.
wanted a
beside-
hoodie, dude. I don't have unbranded. I don't have hoodies that aren't from a different
Well,
various teams.
okay, what are you, like 5? Maybe
Yes.
you should just buy some blank hoodies. I don't know what to tell you.
I am like 5, actually. I'll have you know.
Also, I tweeted at Johnson asking if he was coming to Ottawa, and he liked it. So I'm assuming that means he's coming to Ottawa.
Well, yeah, we just said that.
No, but like just because they hear it, I'm just saying, I'm assuming that means he's coming. Like it's actually confirmed. I'm super excited. This is great news. I think it's a great way to end the first part of our live.
Yeah.
Because I need to stretch my legs. So sitting on this chair for 2 hours is starting to hurt my butt.
Yeah, I don't
Man.
know. It's been weird because there's a lot of stuff that has to be made official that the teams just haven't made official yet, and I'm wondering if it's just the technicalities of they have to sign the contract still, and there's still
like there's still things that need to go through.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that's probably it. But yeah, no, it's been a good first 2 hours. It was awesome that Micah joined us, and it's perfect too because we didn't have to work around the media teams or the communications teams because he became a free agent 2 hours ago. Therefore, I can talk to him for nothing without asking.
I mean, I talk to him all the time.
Yeah.
Man.
Before we get out of here, bold take.
I mean, with things that we're going,
I'm still very conservative. Like, spoiler alert, we will be putting out a power rankings in about 2 weeks' time, just based on how things look on paper, because I'm sure that won't piss some people off. But I do believe that unless my mind changes entirely in the next couple of days, we will see something similar to how things ended last season. Maybe Ottawa will be up a couple of spots. They won't be dead last, I'll tell you that right now, but I also won't be ranking them second, you know.
No, they'll be first. I'm kidding.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think this is a great way to end the first half of our live show to take a break and kind of reset. Man, what a way to end it. What an act. I'm gonna reach out to Johnson and see if we can get him on later tonight.
We'll have to be careful with that one.
Okay, maybe we'll message Hoffley and
we'll message Hoffley.
We'll get Hoffley. I'll let you handle Hoffley because you talk to him more than
well. Okay, so yeah, we'll discuss this one off and when we're done here. But
well, we'll try to get some more players getting in and getting onto our second half of the show, which I believe will be around 4
or 5, whatever we decide to do.
I think 4 would probably be the good way to look at it. Allow like a couple of hours, give us a 2-hour break to get things done. But thank you all for who have tuned in so far on this live stream. We'll be back at 4:00 with more to discuss, hopefully. Man, what a crazy 2 hours. It started off slow. It kind of ended on a high note. But man, stay tuned. Make sure you hit that notification bell on the bottom on YouTube. I don't know if it's on Facebook, so I'm not on Facebook anymore, so I don't know how you can make sure you don't miss the next live stream. Like the page, Twitter, hit the bell. But we will be back here at 4:00 with a brand new another live stream talking to you about what's going on in the CFL.